Don't settle for bad socks. Get comfort and grip at an affordable price with Pure Grip Socks Pro. Choose from 18 different colors at puregripsocks.com.
At this point, I think it's a bit silly to say, especially for those that are in the know, that Mizuno is an underrated brand when it comes to football boots. However, in a day and age when high-end football boots have gotten so expensive, as much as $220 for Pumas, as much as $275 from Nike, and $280 from Adidas, how on earth are people supposed to be able to justify paying $320 for a pair of top-end made-in-Japan Mizunos? Well, what if I told you that you don't have to, because what I have right here is the brand new Mizuno Morelia Neo 4 Beta Elite, a football boot that I absolutely would not consider to be a takedown model, nor does it have a takedown model price. However, instead of the $320 asking price of the made in Japan variant, the Elite model, which is made in Vietnam, is only going to run you $200, making them quite a bit less expensive than just about all the most popular top-end options, but to a quality standard that is just as good, if not better. And for those that perhaps didn't know, this isn't a new thing from Mizuno. I actually reviewed the model this replaces in the Neo 3 Beta Elite, which I thought were really solid football boots, but had some small differences compared to the Made in Japan variation, where I just thought the more expensive model was ultimately better. This time around, they've made some subtle tweaks despite the boots looking almost identical that I think put this pretty well on the same level as the Made in Japan variation. And when you're talking overall value for money, if you're after a pair of boots in the speed category that are as comfortable as you can possibly find, I don't think there's a better option than these. So with that in mind, we're gonna go over everything these are all about, including how they fit and feel on feet. So if you're interested in learning more and ultimately deciding whether or not these should be on your radar for your next pair of football boots, please stick around, watch the entire review. And if you are interested in a pair for yourself, you can pick them up below their normal retail price by way of some exclusive SR4U coupon codes by checking out the first link down below. And really quickly, if you guys enjoy these brutally honest reviews, don't forget to drop a like on the video and make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you don't miss out on my reviews of all the latest football boots of 2023. So first things first, I just wanted to give you a quick side-by-side between the two variations of the Morelia Neo 4 Beta that Mizuno has on offer. You have the Made in Japan model here in white at $320 versus the Made in Vietnam Elite model at $200, where aside from, of course, the colorway, there are only going to be two distinctive differences that the untrained eye will be able to pick out, and that is the little tab here on the top. You can see it does say Japan on the Made in Japan variation, and then the Mizuno Runbird logo on the Made in Japan model is actually 3D and glued to the surface of the upper, where on the Neo 4 Elite, you will find that it is still technically glued to the surface. However, it's a material that's super thin and sits flush to the upper. As far as physical differences go, things that are going to affect the objective performance and experience of playing in these football boots, I can't sit here and honestly say that I think these at $120 more are significantly better than the Elite model. They both have a kangaroo leather upper, they both have textile through the midfoot, a knitted material across the top of the foot, and the sole plate end stud pattern is identical on both of these football boots. What you are realistically paying for with the Made in Japan model is having the best of the best as far as materials and build quality is concerned. However, for $120 less, what you're getting in the Elite model is still very, very above average as far as a quality standard for high-end boots is concerned. Yes, the kangaroo leather is super soft on the Elite. It's just that little bit softer and little bit nicer on the Made in Japan model. You will find subtle differences where the lining of the actual textile synthetic through the midfoot is a little bit different as far as the reinforcement is concerned on the Made in Japan model versus the Elite. It's very difficult for me to show you guys that, but ultimately in terms of actually playing in the boots, it's almost impossible to tell. So realistically, the justification for the Made in Japan model over the Elite is going to come down to how much do you really care about very, very small details. As for the feel and performance characteristics of the Neo 4 Beta Elite, what you're going to find in this boot is a level of refinement that you typically don't see very often at all, not just in football boots, but in sports equipment in general. It's an industry that's all about having something new, where even if they already have a product that is phenomenal, a 10 out of 10 in the eyes of the vast majority, they will change it up for the sake of hyping up something different and hopefully driving more sales. Where Mizuno's attitude towards the Morelia Neo line in particular is that it's more or less kind of just been a subtle level of refinement since it was introduced all the way back in 2010, where it's still the same basic formula. Kangaroo leather in the forefoot, synthetic through the midfoot, with a lightweight sole plate and a conical stud pattern. Kind of a hybrid of old school and modern elements to create a very unique pair of speed boots. And in comparison to just about everything on offer from all the major brands right now, this stands alone as being exceptionally unique in an era where pretty much everything is thin synthetics, knits, and textiles. While there is definitely a textile element to the Neo 4 Beta Elite, the kangaroo leather through the forefoot is incredibly soft, molds to the shape of your foot, super pliable, and still gives you that touch and feel for the ball that only leather can provide. For those that were big fans of the leather days of the F50 Adizero from Adidas, once upon a time, these kind of went toe-to-toe with those football boots. However, over the years, Adidas changed things up, and you can no longer get a leather F50. You can't even get an F50 Adizero at all. They discontinued the line entirely, despite its popularity at the time. Nonetheless, the textile material through the midfoot, I think, is one of the more noticeable changes coming from last year's or last generation's Neo 3 Beta Elite, where this just feels a little bit more pliable, and the shape as a whole has been tweaked in such a way where the overall shaping of the football boot feels identical to that of the Made in Japan model, where the wrap around your foot, the overall comfort, the pliability, the stability, it is phenomenal. There's very little for me to fault in regards to the design of this football boot, because all the changes that they've made, while they might not be very visually striking, the boots almost look exactly the same as the previous model, they make a big difference in terms of the fit and experience of the final product. The knitted material does hold a little bit more tension across the top of the foot in that it is a new pattern, but once the boots are on your feet, it wraps your foot incredibly closely, giving you that nice one-piece construction with a lacing system directly down the middle for plenty of adjustability. So as a whole, they wrap your foot very closely, they provide really good responsiveness and tightness that you'd expect from a pair of top-end speed boots, but with the softness of kangaroo leather and just phenomenal heel lockdown in general. I'd go as far as to say that when it comes to finding the perfect balance of overall comfort as well as that kind of tightness and responsiveness that you expect from a pair of lightweight speed boots, it's really difficult to beat what Mizuno have in this overall package. Moving to the rear, you're going to find a low-cut design that has been raised slightly on the sides, which I think ultimately benefit the overall fit through this area of the foot. How closely this wraps the sides of your ankles, given how many football boots have this one-piece upper construction, is the best that I've ever seen out of anything. Really impressive, and again, something that does carry over from the Made in Japan variation. A little extension tail on the back, which is basically just there to help with putting the boots on. A super soft microfiber heel lining material with the perfect amount of padding kind of all along the back heel area of the boot. Then the insole is fully removable, technically a little bit different in terms of the liner on the surface compared to the Made in Japan model, that obviously being a little bit more premium, but this being fairly standard and what you're going to expect from most top-end speed boots. Super soft against your foot, and then of course it's just made from a single layer of this white foam, which is nothing special, but it does of course get the job done. As for the base, it is technically brand new tooling, however the sole plate and stud pattern feels and performs pretty well exactly the same way. That's the one thing that really hasn't changed much about the Morelia Neo series since it was first introduced. You still have the external heel counter, which I'm quite a big fan of, just from both a looks as well as overall feel perspective. I just think part of the comfort of the heel because of it being reinforced externally just works out super, super well. Again, kind of a recipe that was once upon a time super popular within the Adidas brand. Mizuno, however, is one of the only ones that kind of stuck with it over the years. And then you're going to find reinforcement through the heel and midfoot, plenty of rigidity with a more flexible feel through the forefoot, which I really like and works extremely well with the soft kangaroo leather. So if you want that super responsive sensation that has become a major feature of some of the more popular speed boots out there, you're not necessarily getting it here, but again, this is very different conceptually than most of the other speed boots currently on the market. And then as far as the stud pattern is concerned, again, something that really sets this apart is the conical stud layout, where maybe they don't provide quite as much bite when pushing off as a bladed stud would, but you still have that freedom to twist and pivot, which you won't get from most top-end speed boots. And in general, these studs provide more aggressive traction than I think a lot of people would expect. If you're looking for a nice balance of everything while also not sacrificing traction, I really feel like this is a layout that a lot of people would like, given that they give it a chance. And then when it comes to weight, I thought it'd be interesting to compare the Elite model to the more expensive Made in Japan variation, both in the same size 9.5 US. We'll start off with the Made in Japan version, and you can see that they weigh in at 7.2 ounces, the equivalent of 205 grams. Change the scale back to ounces, and we'll throw on the Elite variation, and you can see that they weigh in at 6.95 ounces, the equivalent of 197 grams. So despite being less expensive and to a very small degree technically less premium, the Elite model is 8 grams lighter than the Made in Japan model. Is that an important amount of weight? Absolutely not. Both of these boots feel super light on your feet, but if you were already kind of considering just saving some money and going for the Elite model, you can feel pretty good about the fact that they are actually lighter. On feet, the Neo 4 Beta Elites feel fantastic, and like I talked about earlier in the video, it is almost impossible to tell a difference between these and the more expensive Made in Japan variation. I think what's always tricky when it comes to the comfort of a pair of football boots is so much of what feels comfortable to you is subjective. Everybody likes the fit and feel of something a little bit different, and for me, I like my boots to feel snug with no extra space inside without being overly tight, which I think is why I've often gravitated towards football boots with a leather upper. You can have that more snug predetermined shape, but with the softness and slight stretch you're going to get from leather, it will never feel like it's squeezing your foot excessively. The Neo 4 Beta Elite really feels like the perfect balance of kind of that tight one-to-one sensation of a speed boot, particularly through the heel and midfoot, with the softness and pliability and a little bit of forgiveness in terms of how tightly it wraps your foot in the toe box area with that kangaroo leather at the front. They are just incredibly comfortable, more so in my opinion than anything else currently available in the speed category. From a width perspective, they're going to be suitable for a wide variety of people. They're definitely most snug through the midfoot, so if you have a particularly wide foot, like most speed boots, they might not be the best option for you, but like I said, they will work really well for most people, and the stretch and adjustability after some wear time from the kangaroo leather at the front does make these unique compared to other speed boots out there. And as far as sizing is concerned, they do run about a quarter size long like the Morelia Neo line has done for a little while now, but definitely not long enough to justify going down in size, at least for me. If your boots are currently a little bit too big, maybe going a half size down might be the best decision for you, but for the vast majority of people, including myself, going true to size is what I would personally recommend. So in conclusion, and to put things as simply as possible, if I had a budget of $200 and was on the market for a pair of football boots in the speed category, this is the one that I would buy. If you like speed boots, if you like leather, comfort, a quality fit, and great overall value, I don't think anything else on the market offers any of that better than the Morelia Neo 4 Elite.